And welcome back to another season of racing here at Formula SimRacing. It is time for season 2 of our IndyPRO Championship by Formula SimRacing, and we had a really interesting season just over a year ago actually, where Evolution Motorsports won the Constructors' Championship, but it was Yanni Simicic who took the Drivers' Championship, and we're about to do it all again to see who's going to be the champion this time round over our Winter Series. Starting off, we are going to be here at the Indianapolis Grand Prix track before we go to the Elkhart Lake Raceway in a couple of weeks' time. And then we'll be having a community vote as well before Apple Valley Speedway. And then to finish it all off in the beginning of January, we will have an Indy 300. And it's myself, Cameron and Rodger, bringing you through the action today. Alongside me is Ewan O'Leary, back again for another wonderful season of racing. And Ewan, I'm looking pretty forward to this.
Yeah, it was a great success, I think, 1 year ago, the IndyPRO Championship, the first edition. And so I'm glad it's back, and it's back with a very familiar kind of format as well. The sprint race, 14 laps today, and 41 laps for a feature race here today, but similar kind of lengths for all of the races this season. So I think it worked well last year, and it's got promise to work well this year, obviously with the different tyre compounds that we've got to talk about, and we might as well get straight to it, I suppose. Using 2 sets of hard tyres throughout the sprint and the feature race. If you use a hard tyre in qualifying, it doesn't count towards that. And if you change tyres in the sprint race, it doesn't count either. But using 2 sets of hard tyres across the 2 races is what you need to do to be classified at the end, and it worked really well as a format last time around, as I say. So I'm very much looking forward to it, and we'll see who comes out on this comes out on top this time. I can't imagine it's Yanni Simicic is going to be far away.
Well, the interesting thing with Yanni Simicic actually is he isn't racing today in this first race. I believe he will be from race 2 onwards. So he's going to lose a lot of points in this first event as the drivers just come out to this qualifying session. So just a quick reminder of the qualifying format. So it's a 10-minute session where the drivers will basically have 3 attempts that they obviously they can choose when they go out. It's private, so they only see themselves on the track. And they, basically they're just limited to 3 hot laps. So you got to get your laps in quickly, but you've also got to make sure that they're quick, because as you can see, we've got a pretty stacked field, 29 cars on the grid, and it's going to be difficult to get yourself in that top 10.
It's a staggering amount of cars. I was a bit surprised looking at down the left-hand side of the grid there, but there's some really big names on the grid. But as you mentioned, Simicic not here on this occasion, which is a little bit of a shame. But there's plenty of FSR World Champions here on the grid here tonight. So very much looking forward to seeing how it pans out, and also this car that we're on board with right now, Ricardo Costa. First of all, it's very difficult to drive. We've been told, Cam. I've not driven it myself. I don't know about you, probably have. But you told me, or everyone, a little bit earlier, that it's kind of the idea that it's supposed to be difficult. It's not supposed to be easy.
Yeah, it's certainly not. I mean, you'll see the steering wheel inputs. It can, well, just the car in general. As soon as you get on the throttle, it's really starting to wiggle around. But you've got to be very careful with the brakes on the entry as well. It's not a Formula 1 car, which is something that's been obviously discussed amongst the drivers before this event has started. It's not a Formula 1 car. It is a little bit more agricultural in that way, and you have to just have that little bit more precision. And that means you're going to see a couple of slides here and there, especially in qualifying when they're pushing to the limit. But you have to tame that driving for the race, because obviously you still need to make the tyres last a full stint, as we will get into. But it looks like Costa obviously setting some green lap times. We have some purples coming in as well for some other drivers at the moment. But coming into this final stadium sort of section, it's so difficult to get the power on. And even in this car, keeping it flat out through the final corner, there might even be a bit of a lift from some of these drivers really using the road. And coming to the line, we're probably going to see somewhere in the 12s and maybe into the 11s, and yet 12 flats for Peter Bernick, and then 12.5 for Ricardo Costa.
Yeah, absolutely. Bernick, one of the favourites certainly heading into today, because he's a very strong driver. Previous world champion, as you know, Adam Rainey getting off to a good start there as well, in just 44 thousandths of a second behind. Jan Vosnica has been going well, though. Look at those couple of purple sectors next to his name at the moment. Maybe the first 11 of the day is going to be belong to him. Oh my goodness, and it does as well. An 11.8 we'll call it, but that's comfortably ahead of the rest of the field.
Yeah, certainly is. And here's the man who's been I can't even say it, orchestrating the car behind the scenes in pre-season, Alan Turzich, for BS Plus competition. Coming around the final corner, and just you'll see what his lap time is first as he comes across the line, and where is he going to put himself out to P4. Not too bad from him, but yeah, this is actually, I won't mention it, but it is a fixed setup series. So all the drivers, they're running the exact same setup. The only thing that they can change is like the brake pressure, brake bias, and the steering lock. That's the only thing that they can change. Everything to the aero, the suspension, etc. is all locked. So it's a level playing field. It's just, let's see who can drive the fastest. And it was Alan, really, who was creating the base for all of these drivers, as we see Liam Duval going up to 5th place.
Yeah, strong result from him. I believe it. Duval was got his first World Championship podium this season at Imola, all that time ago in the World Championship. But either way, it didn't pan out. The rest of the season didn't pan out like that. Anyway, it's a good start from him though, 5th place, and there are some big names up the front of the field. Bernick, Bernick, Rainey, Turzich, Duval at the moment, and Skoron, since he's standing in for Jone Simic, it's not doing a bad job at all in 6th place ahead of Jordan and Major. So yeah, some strong drives so far, but the first round of times, I guess, is kind of over at this stage, and people are heading out once again to try again for a second attempt at this one, to try and get up the order maybe. But Ricardo Costa certainly sliding his way around and over those curves, which became quite iconic actually in this race last year.
Yeah, there's a really good gif of Mitch Hoyer overtaking one of the Vargas SimRacing cars and launching himself over that curb, trying to go side by side. I'm sure we're going to see some action there when we get into the two races as well. But you see here, just the curbs, they're very crucial around this track. You can see Costa really trying to use all of those curbs where possible, trying to extend the track, trying to make the radius of the corner what he wants. And even coming into this final section, that curb on the inside would be huge if you hit it. But it looks like he's just avoiding them, but he's really tried to push the rear of that car to the limit as he comes around the final corner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of the consensus that we had last year, is that you do have to really push this car over the limit, really, to try and get it to go quickly. But obviously you do need an element of control there as well. And as you can see, even though it looked like a fairly scruffy lap in places from Ricardo Costa, it's much better than his previous attempt by about 4 attempts, and he jumps up to 4th place. It's a good drive from him, and not many green sectors, and certainly not many purple sectors hanging around here at the moment. So people seemingly struggling. By the looks of things, a little bit of an inside lock-up for Rainey, who's not exactly going any quicker here with this lap, and neither is Jan Vosnica on this lap either. So it seems that the first lap was actually the best opportunity for a lot of these guys. Everyone's struggling a bit after that.
Yeah, it's weird because obviously the track is progressing, the rubber is building up, and you'd expect the times to get that little bit faster, especially 29 cars out there all doing laps. That will obviously increase that count of the rubber quite significantly. But let's see Alan Turzich coming out of the final corner. He hasn't improved in that middle sector, but let's see what he can do as he comes towards the line. Is he going to improve himself? Yes, he is up to 4th position with a 12.1, and we still have a couple of cars finishing their next round of laps. And this is the man you were just talking about, Damien Skovron, for Burst Esport, replacing Jane Simic for this race. Coming out of the final corner, a couple of personal bests already in that 7th place. Can he get himself up towards the top 5? It would be a good position for him to be in, as he's going to get up to 5th place at the moment. And Skovron, obviously coming from a really good season in the main championships of FSR, winning championship there, so it's looking like it's going to be a good season for him.
It's certainly getting off to a decent start at the moment. 6th place is not bad at all, but Jan Vosnica is head and shoulders above everybody else, and I have to say it's a little bit of a surprise to see, really. We weren't expecting that, or I certainly wasn't anyway, coming into this particular race, but he's a quarter of a second ahead of the rest of the field. And if you consider where the next quarter of a second gets you to, it includes Jonas Braksok in 10th, so a very good effort from Vosnica to get off to this start. It's all about converting in the race, of course, but still it's a good start as we're on board with the RT, and the final times are going to start to come in soon, but they've got to get out there fairly quickly. There's not all the time in the world, only 2 minutes left now.
Yeah, let's see what Jarl can do as he comes through this sector 1. Very tricky, locking up their inside wheel, actually just about managing to make the apex, but getting really twitchy as he gets on the power, sending it over the curbs as we come onto this back straight, which will be a fairly decent overtaking opportunity actually, coming down into Turn number 7, quite a hard braking zone, really tight, pinches you on the apex before you open up into this sort of S's section with these multiple corners, all sort of 90-degree corners where you got to really balance that car in second, third gear before you come out onto the oval very quickly. And he's doing a personal best in that middle sector, so hopefully he can get himself up into the top 10, and the times ahead of him are actually pretty close.
Yeah, they are, absolutely. So it won't take too much of an effort for him to get up the order here inside the top 10, and working the wheel very hard through the final corner, bouncing onto the oval once again, and we'll see where this gets him up to. But top 10 looking fairly fairly likely, but in the end it's not quite turned out that way. He's going to be 11th at best by the looks of things. Couple of green sectors hanging around the mid-order at the moment. Yuri Kazdorp has got one of them, but no purples around. Vosnikar's looking very safe at the moment.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's got quite that big gap at the front. Let's see what they do as we come towards the final laps. And Yuri Kazdorp at the moment, is he going to improve himself up the grid? Yes, he does, to 16th place, and he isn't going to quite have enough time to get around for another lap. So that looks like he's going to be his position. And then we come to Yannick Bock. I was expecting Yannick actually to be a bit higher up, obviously a Super League champion, and also fighting for the Super League Championship 3 years in a row as well. So he certainly knows what he's doing at high level open wheel competition, but let's see what he does out of this final corner. He's on a couple of personal bests at the moment, coming towards the line. Can he get himself even up to sort of the top 15 area? Yeah, the top 11. That's a nice improvement from Yannick Bock.
Yeah, very nice towards the end, and looks like there might be a nice improvement coming up for Petter Bernick as well. There's a couple of green sectors going on. He might well be able to get that little bit closer to Jan Vosnikker, but overhauling him is going to be a very difficult job. Jonas Brakstok also improving out there at the moment, as is the likes of Dennis Jordan and Rainey as well. But coming through the final couple of corners, the 2015 world champ might not be able to get pole, but he's pushing very hard to try and do so.
And let's see as he comes towards the line, is he going to be able to get himself on pole position with a good final sector? But I think he's going to stay in that second place, but just improving his time towards Noah Roivers in third place as well. But look at this from the Netrex P1 Sim entry. Jan Vosnikker looking like he's going to be getting pole position, but his teammate Noah Roivers also in third place. So what a great debut for that team with Netrex and the new sponsor. Great to see them, P1 Sim coming to join Netrex, but what can Vosnikker do coming out of the final corner? Purple middle sector. Is he going to increase his time at the front? Yes, he is, by a quarter of a second. He will get that pole position as his teammate Noah Roivers comes to join him on that second row. So that is looking really good for Netrex with their sister team, with Adam Rainey in fourth place as well.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic start to the season for all of those boys to be able to get up the order and up towards the front there. The fantastic job from all of them to be able to kind of tame this car and get themselves on pole position. Bernick obviously sandwiched in there. We've got Brakstok, who's always a decent qualifier, in fifth position. Turzich, who's been obviously behind the scenes making the setup score on as well. In seventh, Costa Martin Devaldi, top 10. But Netrex unbeatable so far. We'll see how they get on in the race.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good, but also actually while the top few have quite a big jump, look how close these times are. I mean, there's only 0.2 between those 10 drivers on the screen at the moment. There's some really good names down there. I mean, you've got Jordan, Hoyer, Bock, Tyan, all sorts of good drivers, Kazdorp as well. And as you might see, there's a couple of sort of newer teams to FSR that we'll try and get through during the warm-up session before we look towards the back of the field here, with HM Engineering's Ferenczi finalising the grid as well. But yeah, there's been a few new teams join FSR during this series, which is always good to see. And hopefully we can obviously wish them some luck with entering their first, some of them even their first series in FSR. For instance, we've got Liam Duval and Jake Denahan racing for Wolves GR eSports. And we got Tomasz Vak and Daniel Stepkowski as well for RSR. As well as Brakstok and Benchik for Arnage competition, before finally Roberto Pinataro and Remco Mior for Virtual Drivers by TX3, all making their debuts here. So hopefully they can have a nice season and maybe challenge up towards the top of the points.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned earlier, a little bit earlier on, BS Competition having their first FSR race as a standalone team. They were paired with Williams over the World Championship this 2021 season. But they've decided to go alone for the IndyPRO Championship. We're getting a bit of an idea here as well as what tyres these guys might start on with the different tyres that they've got on the white stripe prime tyre, harder tyre on the Pignatero's car at the moment. You can imagine it's a bit difficult because we saw these cars sliding around on the Red Bull softs not so long ago, and now an even harder tyre to be trying to put the traction down and so on and so forth. It's going to be very tricky, but Bernick looks like even from second place he's going for the softs. I'm not really sure what the best idea would be here, really, whether going for the hards, if you've got a good track position, is a good idea. Are you going to be able to hold on, or getting one out of the way if you lower down is a good idea? I really don't know, but it'll be interesting to see how these guys tackle it either way.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So just to reiterate the rules. So you obviously have the alternate, the red tyres, and then you have the primary, which are the white, harder tyres. They're quite a bit slower. So to do this, the rule has been introduced that you have to use the hards twice during both races. And this is only because obviously the sprint race is designed not to have a pit stop, so it's only your starting tyre in the sprint race. So if you use the hard tyres in the sprint race, obviously you're going to be a lot faster in the feature because you can use soft twice. But in the sprint race, you then are obviously quite a bit slower. So if, say in the top 10, everyone chooses hards, but then one person decides to use soft, they might get an easy victory because they'll be able to overtake, they'll have the extra grip. But then obviously that will reverse when we go to the feature race, and then there'll be a disadvantage. So you're sort of choosing when you have your advantage or your disadvantage. And it looks like quite a few drivers are already choosing the primaries, trying to look towards the feature race. But that Bernick on soft, on the alternates, could be one to look out for a race win in the sprint.
Well, we're not exactly sure if that's what he's going to go for, because this is only warm-up after all. He can change his mind, and it might just be playing with everybody else, to be honest. But that would be a supreme amount of confidence to be able to do that. It's a very interesting conundrum, really. And correct me if I'm wrong, there's only 10 points difference in terms of winning a sprint race versus winning a feature race. And considering the length of the race and how difficult that would be, especially if you're starting on the front, then those 10 points, I might be tempted, if I'm on the front row, to put the softs on, to be honest, and go for those 25 points and try and hang on to as many as possible in the feature race, to be honest, because the points difference between the two races is not huge.
Yeah, that's a good point. Obviously, as you're saying, the feature race is 35 points for him, when the sprint race is 25. So even though the feature race is 3 times longer, it's only 10 extra points. So you're right. So obviously that then again puts some emphasis on maybe you want to try and get the points in the sprint race. But yeah, it's always a difficult decision. One of the main differences between the 2 points as well is that in the sprint race, points only go to 20th place, whereas in the feature race, everyone all the way down the grid gets points. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what they do. And this is always the interesting part. We've seen 1 stops, we've seen 2 stops, we even see Turzich and I think the Evo boys last year trying some 3 stops in the feature race as well. So there's a lot that can happen, and obviously refueling, changing tyres. Yeah, the strategic options are quite wide.
Yeah, they certainly are. And one thing I will note, just looking through the results of the 2020 IndyPro season, is Ewan Turzich won 2 sprint races. And I presume, he got out front early using maybe a softer tyre or defending from the front, and was able to win 2 of the sprint races, and obviously clinched the title by quite a hefty margin in the end. But yeah, I think that's certainly going to be one to look out for, guys who are doing very well in the sprint, just trying to hang on in the feature, really, because you don't lose that many points. But we'll see how these guys play it anyway, because it's a complete new prospect for a lot of people, I'd imagine, and we'll see how these guys are going to tackle it.
And first of all, we'll go through the grid. So Jan Wozniacki leading the way with pole position from Petter Bernick, Noah Roivers and Adam Rainey, rounding out the top 4. Janos Brackshot for Arnage competition, and Alan Turzich for BS competition, and Skovron and Ricardo Costa rounding out the top 8. Before we come to the end of the top 10 with Carlos Martin and Liam Duval. Dennis Jordan for Red Bull Racing there in 11th spot, and Valley Esports' Jacob Reed in 12th position. So Valley getting both cars up there in the top 12. Michi Hoyer is followed by Yannick Bock, Jarl Tyne and Remco Major for virtual drivers by TX3, making their debut here in Formula Sim Racing. And then P17, Jake Dennehan, followed by Zoltschuk and Timia Benchik in 19th place, before Yuri Kazdorp down there in 20th place. Look at him for making some improvements during the race. Then Daniel Stepkowski, Thomas Schwack for RSR there, rounding out the top 22, with Lalu and Carvalho rounding out the top 24. Before we come to the final few guys on the grid, we've got Pinataro and Cass Rietveld, before Pascal Schmidt and David Koloksai as well, before we have the one driver at the back, which is Frenchie for HM Engineering. And the drivers now going on their formation lap. So as you would expect, it is a rolling start. So by the time we get into Sector 3, the drivers will then grid up into their double file formation, and we will see what is going to happen. But Ewan, look at all those primary tyres.
Yeah, a lot of people trying to get one out of the way early on by the looks of things. And that's not a bad call. When everyone does it, it's not a terrible call, but look out for the likes of Dennis Jordan and Liam Duval, Yannick Bock particularly. I think they're going to be very strong throughout the race. Petter Bernick is, I don't want to say he's already won the race, because that would be a bit premature, but he's got a very, very good chance of winning one, since there's a good 7 or 8 cars between himself and the next Redwood tired runner. And
drivers,
on the primaries there, no matter how quick he was in qualifying, he's not going to be able to stand up to the challenge of a world champion on those set of tyres, surely. So it's going to be very, very difficult for him, but there's going to be some very interesting battles in and around the top 10 with, as you say, a lot of these guys on the primary tyres.
Yeah, certainly will. Unfortunately, we've got Kazdorp and Reed haven't made it to the field, so just 27 drivers will be taking us through. And as we get out of this final corner, Jan Woska will choose when to go, and then the green flag will be called by Anthony Nippon, race director here today. And let's see when the IndyPro Season 2 is going to get underway. We're green. So it looks like he's actually got a really good start. Petter Berlak coming into the slipstream for the couple of Netrex guys in just behind him. Let's see what they do as we come towards turn number 1. Such a long run here down into the braking zone. Cold brakes. Is there going to be anyone doing any sort of lockup? But it looks like actually we've got Adam Rady already getting up ahead of his sister teammate into that third place, with Alan Turzich following in behind. And it looks like most drivers were having a quite clean Sector 1 so far.
Yeah, good start from Vosnica there. Used the power of being the leader very, very well indeed as they bounce across the curbs for the first time, but a big traffic jam in the background. You can just see how much it's snaking out behind, and there's already a couple of spinners. It looks like Thomas Vac has been around in his car, I'm afraid, so there's been a few incidents for a few of these guys. A bit further down, Stepowski looks like might have been involved as well as Koloksai, Pignatero, etc. So there's a couple of things going on a little bit further down in terms of spins, but nice and clean up front, and a clean start for Vosnica. But as we're seeing already, Berliak starting to apply the pressure.
Yeah, Berlak has got a really good opportunity to win this race, and in terms of the points, it would actually be very important, because we're not expecting any of these guys to make a pit stop. So this is just a straight sprint to the end of the race, and I'll be very surprised if Wozniak can hold Berlak up. However, these alternates will drop off a lot faster and be a lot slower when we get towards the end. Let's see how the slipstream is coming towards turn number 1. Jan Woska, is he going to fend down the inside? No, he's not. He thinks he can hold on. But in the background, looks like Alan Turzich already getting up into third place. He passed both Roivers and Rainey on that lap.
Yeah, absolutely. The car going off a little bit wide in the background there. Could have been Michi Hoyer actually there, but the Wolves and Burst eSport cars look remarkably similar. I believe it was indeed Michi Hoyer. He was right on the back of his teammate Scoron, and Liam Duval making a pretty good start hit. All of the softer tyre runners have not made as good a starts as I was expecting, I have to say. I thought they would make their way through nicely, but now that it's all starting to single file out, it's becoming a little bit easier as Duval shows on the outside line there.
Oh, that was a really nice move there by Duval. Now he's just in between those two burst cars. Mitchell actually making up some good positions from his starting position, but we know there was a bit of a issue there in turn 4 area on that first lap down sort of in the midfield. Now let's go back to the front. Petter Berlak right on the back of Jan Woznica. The issue is following in this final corner, you're going to have to try and get a bit of a different line, but the slipstream is fairly powerful, but it's not going to be a slam dunk overtake. He is going to have to work for this a little bit in the braking zone. Jan Woznica slightly looking to the inside, but Petter Berlak actually looking down the inside now. He's going to have a lot more grip, but he's actually going to just lock up the rears. Is he going to keep it on the track just about? And he's going to take the lead in the sprint race.
Yeah, that was a little bit edgy on the brakes actually there, but able to get that one done in the end, side by side, with Liam Duval making his way through on both of the Burst Esports cars on this occasion. Hoyer not able to follow Duval through on his teammate there, so he's going to have to stay in 10th position for the moment, bouncing across the curbs, which he made so famous 1 year ago, and now maybe he's going to be able to make a move on his teammate, but not as much compliance as I was quite expecting. Hoyer, runner-up in the World Championship this season, has finally got through and makes his way into 9th place already.
And the important point as well is for the feature race, there will obviously be a reverse from the result of this, but it is in between 8 and 12. There'll be a random number drawn, so you don't know who is going to have reverse grid pole. So for these positions that they're fighting could be very crucial in potentially getting that pole position. And Dennis Jordan at the moment in that 11th place, but on those soft tyres, if he can make a couple more positions, he will be able to secure himself a slot in that reverse, which would be very crucial for his feature race. But let's see what he can do on Damien Skovron for the Red Bull Racing Esports driver, getting the slipstream as he comes towards turn number 1 down the inside on these softer alternate tyres. Skovron though on the outside, he's going to be able to hold that good space given by both drivers. Nice clean racing as we come through turn number 1 and 2. Jordan still keeping it on the inside into turn 3 and 4. This is going to be very tight as we get towards the far chicane, but it looks like Skovron's just had to back out of that one.
Yeah, Jordan just fed him slightly out wide. It wasn't an unfair move because he obviously still gave him racing room, but he did show him the door, certainly. And Skovron was not interested in really going through on side by side over those curbs, because we all know how that's going to end. So he decided to back out of it rather smartly in the end. Yannick Bock really hasn't been able to make the progress I was expecting, unlike guys like Liam Duval we're seeing on our screens right now. Braxok had nothing to answer for there, really. He couldn't do anything. And I can't blame him, really. Those Red Bull tyres are absolutely fantastic. Costa and Rainey are up next, and it's hard to see them hanging on for much longer.
But the thing you just have to remember is those drivers using the alternates now gaining positions. This is going to happen in reverse in the other race, because they will have to use an extra set of primaries compared to everyone else. But let's see now what Riccardo Costa can do. He had a bit of a so-so main season in FSR. Can he have a bit of a better Indy Pro? Let's see. Around the outside of Adam Rainey. That's going to be the inside for turn number 2. Rainey hold it around the outside though, but Costa just squeezes him out just a little bit, and Rainey might lose another position here. That is one of the Wolves cars. That is Liam Duval making another position there around the outside of turn 4, and this is looking really good for Duval, already getting towards the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really racing up through the field here. Might even be able to get second by the end of this race. We'll see where Vosnica and Turzich are by the end of this one, because Turzich is looking very strong in the race. His qualifying pace was decent, but not setting the world on fire, and this time around he's doing a little bit better in terms of the race pace, so doing a good job so far. But Yannick Bock making his way through, 12th position for him at the moment. Good pass from him once again, and finally maybe now, once the field spreads out ever so slightly, he'll be able to make a bit of progress and join the likes of Liam Duval in getting on by, and Dennis Jordan as well, I guess, who's got a whole heap of primary runners stacked up in front of him now.
Yeah, let's see what he can do. We've seen overtaking is definitely possible down into turn number 1. The issue is Mitchell is getting a bit of slipstream himself. Is there going to be enough for Dennis Jordan to get a run in towards turn number 1? But also we got Adam Rainey trying potentially losing another position here. Brackshock round the outside, bit of contact there once again for Adam Rainey in turn 2, and it looks like Dennis Jordan getting past Mitchie Hoyer there in the end through that first couple of corner sequence as well. So a couple of positions moved, and it might be Adam Rainey losing another position with another soft driver of Jordan coming through.
Deary me, I thought Mitchie Hoyer was going to be off the road in a big way there, but he just about held on to it, thankfully, and they can all keep going. But yeah, Adam Rainey's falling back almost as if someone who's set their car up for qualifying and now struggling in a race. But obviously that's not possible with the fixed setup that we have going on at the moment. He's just getting completely mauled in this race for whatever reason. Qualified really well inside the top 5, but already going to be dropping down to 9th very shortly, I'd imagine, with Dennis Jordan all over him. And I imagine Riccardo Costa's going to be outside the top 5 here very shortly as well, after Liam Duval has finished with this move into turn number 1. He's so close already. There's going to be absolutely nothing Costa can do, surely.
Duval, he's going to be almost too close to get a proper slipstream though, just wiggling a little bit, but yeah, that's going to be Duval easily through. Costa, you just saw the 11s he was leaving coming out of the penultimate corner. As we're seeing already Dennis Jordan trying to get on Adam Rainey now down into turn number 1. Michi Hoy is trying to get involved as well. Is Adam Rainey going to lose another position in turn 1? 3 laps in a row. It looks like he just about is, and maybe Michi Hoy down the inside into turn 4 as well. Are they going to be able to go side by side? It looks like they just about are, but who is going to come out on top? Oh no, Michi, not 2 years in a row over the curb. No, just backs out of that, but then that leaves his teammate to come get a slipstream as well.
Absolutely, we could see 4 wide here with Yannick Bock trying to get involved. Goodness me, they're all going 2 by 2 at the moment. Rainey completely mauled at the moment, outside line for Hoyer, and he's just about got the space there, but not quite able to get through. Yannick Bock has made progress. Skrovron has now been dispatched, and he's going to be able to get the 2 up in front here, maybe shortly, but not making progress as quickly as he would have liked. Maybe a set of softer tyres being wasted at the moment from Bock, because he's stuck in all this traffic.
Yeah, it's certainly a potential waste, but if he is lucky enough to get himself a reverse grid pole, then that would be very good for him. What have you seen?
What's happened to Alan Turzich? Because he's currently 4th and about 4 seconds behind where he was, about 1 lap ago. So something has clearly happened there, and Liam Duval is all too happy to try and get through.
Alan Turzich, he's gone for a bit of a lockup, so he's going to have to go over. He's got to be careful to not get a drive-through penalty here, because if he gets a drive-through, then that is going to be obviously a game over for him regarding some good points. Let's see, and let's get a bit of a replay here to see what is going to happen. This must have been about a lap ago coming into turn number 1. Jan Moska going a bit wide. Alan Turzich trying to get a bit of an undercut. Is he going to just have a tap on the rear end maybe, or just overheating those rear tyres? Oh, dive it down into turn 4. That's not going to work, unfortunately, for Alan, and that is why he lost a couple of positions. Now we're going to have to see where he's come back into, but hopefully he hasn't got a penalty from cutting over that first chicane.
Yeah, Liam Duval cut off over the chicane in a very similar way. What has happened to Adam Rainey there? He's getting overtaken again here. Yannick Bock has been able to make his way through this crazy group, and he'll be very glad about that. But Adam Rainey, is very much involved within it. They both break super late, too late, 3 wide out of the exit. This cannot end well for anybody. Just look at this absolute traffic jam. It's like nothing I've ever seen before, certainly on a racetrack, as they come through the final corner. There's so many cars in a very small amount of space, and everybody is trying to get to the front all at once. It's absolute madness.
Yeah, it's crazy to see these guys. Look at this massive trend. I don't even know which overtake to commentate on, because there's quite a few coming down here into turn number 1. First of all, we got Skrovron and Major going side by side. There's all potentially a bit of contact there, but it looks like Skrovron's managed to come out on that one. Tying now down the inside of Hoyer into turn number 4. Are they going to just about get through there side by side? Such a tight corner there, but he's going to have to back out there for turn 5. And already Cas Rieveld, he started right near the back of the field, getting himself up towards the top 15.
Yeah, absolutely. Dennis Jordan gets through, and Jens Braxuk, as we just see there, the Honor competition car, no chance of keeping him behind at this stage. As we go a little bit further back, Zooks has all of a sudden found himself here with Lalu and Benchik Carvalho also here. They're both on the soft tyres trying to get themselves, well, they just about have made themselves into the points. So it probably was a good call in the end for them to put the Red World tyres on, but maybe not for Yannick Bock, to be honest, considering the amount of time he's spent in this kind of traffic. And those 2 behind are now going to spend their time in all of this. And look at this now. Skrovron is going to be side by side with Tian, and it's going to all be kicking off down into turn number 1 here.
But Skrovron has actually lost quite a bit of momentum there as well. So I think Cas Rieveld is going to get a bit of a run on him coming towards turn number 1 as well. Let's see who's going to come out on top. Rieveld going towards the outside. Is he going to be able to brake late enough, or is Skrovron going to be able to hold it on the inside? Looks like Cas is just about going to be able to get past there.
Yeah, nice move on the outside line there, given enough space and just enough to be able to get through quite nicely. And so they all continue on single file down from all the way from Adam Rainey down to what is 20th position at the moment. Carvalho, the final one in the train. I believe this is an 11-car train at the moment, as Dennis Jordan is trying to continue his way on up the field. It's been a fairly successful race for him, I guess. He started outside the top 10. He might be able to make the top 5 if he can get past Costa and Turzich, but just look at this, absolutely crazy. And Remco Major is trying to hold on here, and so is everybody else, I suppose. Somehow everybody's still pointing in the right way.
And Michi Hoyer just trying so hard not to lose these positions. That is going to be a bit of a dive there into the stadium section, which is not what you want to be able to do. But Titan, is he going to be able to finally get a good run on Michi Hoyer, or is Michi Hoyer going to finally able to hold on as well? Let's see what they do coming towards the line for another time. These guys have just got a couple of laps to go. Petter Burlak, he's got a lead of over 8 seconds, just showing you how much an advantage those alternates are in this sprint race. Titan now on the outside of turn number 1. Michi Hoyer is just going to brake late enough to hold on to that one. But just ahead, Remco Major's made up some good places as well in the last couple of laps. But any of these drivers could lose or gain a position so easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And once one person does, then it all seems to kick off between everybody. After that, oh dear, just about held onto the car, but he's lost a few positions there. Skrovron has got through, and so did Rietveld. Hoyer there side by side with Zooks and Lalu by the looks of things. Everybody trying to head down the inside of Paul Zooks there into the left-hander, and everybody has managed to keep going in the right direction once again, but Tian was very close to a big accident there.
Oh, it certainly was. Really good save, actually, because you can very easily do a pirouette there. The car can get a little bit unstable. Oh, who is that doing a huge lockup? Adam Rainey. He's definitely struggling just a little bit as we get towards this final 2 laps of the race. Remco Major, the outside of the final corner is not where you want to be, so he's going to do a bit of a switchback, trying to get... Oh, look at that. Denahan getting a bit of squirrely coming out of the final corner. Good save from him. But who's going to come out on top with this battle for P10? Major down the inside. Rainey's really trying to cover him off. I think Major just braking, actually not late enough. Rainey a bit braver on the brakes and is able to hold on to that position somehow as we're getting this 4-way battle for P10.
We are. It's just strung out a little bit over the last couple of laps as they've single-filed themselves out, but it's all about to get closed back up together again, you presume, through the final couple of laps as these guys continue to battle. Big save again from Major, and now Denahan might be able to get his way down the inside into the left-hander, but not able to. And oh dear, Michi Hoyer tried to capitalise and wasn't able to. Ended up getting pushed off the road, and Hoyer continues to fall down in this race. Not always due to his own fault either.
Castreveld up into 12th place now. He is making some positions just from the chaos that is happening ahead of him, which is obviously what happens when you start a little bit further down. But let's come to this battle for P2. Petter Burlak, he's way up the road, but who's going to get second? Liam Deval on these alternate tyres, really making some good progress. Jan Woznica not defending really too hard into this first corner. Will Liam have enough tyre grip to defend? Yes, or to attack, I should say. Yes, he can, and he's made up that position into turn number 2 and up into P2 as well. Remco Major now on the back of Adam Rainey down the inside. Can he finally make this position stick? Adam Rainey braking a bit later, locking up side by side once again into turn number 1 and 2. Can Major go around the outside? Adam Rainey's lost quite a few positions in this corner throughout the race, and there goes another one. Major up inside the top 10, although Rainey's actually tried to fight back, but he's just going to have to back out of that one before turn 5.
He does indeed, as it's side by side behind. Oh, Rietveld and Denahan just about managed to make that one work there, but it's all about to kick off behind us here as Skrovron is trying to capitalise on all of this. Hoyer doesn't want to be losing any more positions and wants to regain some of the ones he's lost very recently, as well as Petter Burlak is already coming through the final corner.
Oh, Petter Burlak, he has chosen the best tyre, and he is going to, for the second year in a row, win the sprint race at Indianapolis. He did the exact same last season, choosing those alternate tyres. Very good choice to get a nice win in that sprint race. Liam Deval will be coming through in second place, but there's so much action still. Yo, Tyne is going off. He's going to go for a bit of a spin. Hopefully, he cannot collect anyone, keeps it just about out of everyone's way, but he's going to lose quite a few positions there. But his teammate, Alan Turzich, 6th place. I'm sure he would have wanted a little bit more, but Dennis Jordan actually got past him on that final lap.
Yeah, he did. Dennis Jordan, in the end, recovered what would have been a very average race, turned into a decent one in the end. But I have to say, Michi Hoyer, the biggest loser out of this one, in my opinion. I thought I was expecting him to qualify a little bit better, first of all, but in the end, some incidents that weren't always his fault, it ended up really hampering him there. So he finishes 15th behind his teammate. He'll be looking for a better feature race. Obviously, this man, obviously a big winner of the day, but Liam Deval, absolute masterstroke in terms of strategy, in my opinion. I know we've not quite seen how the rest of this event is actually going to play out, and that will obviously be very, very useful. But Liam Deval, even though he's got to use 2 primaries in the feature race, has already made this decision worthwhile, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Burlak obviously He started second, so only really gained 1 place. But Liam Duval gained so many places that I definitely think that was worth it, because even with his disadvantage, those extra points from that second place would have really helped him. And also Dennis Jordan making up quite a few positions as well. So that was a really good start to the IndyPro season. And hopefully we can see some more of that in the feature race in a few moments' time. And then we will get the obviously the reverse grid to see which driver is going to be lucky enough. So let's first of all get a bit of a replay here. Here is Yar Time coming in to turn number 7, and it is going to be a bit of chaos here. You're going to see that's Michi Hoyer coming down the inside, giving him a bit of a bump before they go side by side. Yar Time trying to push him off just a little bit there, and then he comes back across, and once again they have a bit more contact. I think is that Benchik there getting involved as well. So this is not the cleanest driving in the world, and that is probably why we're going to see a little bit more squeezing, I'm sure, as we get towards this turn 12 corner. Yet Time just not having enough room, getting on the grass, and actually somehow avoiding those cars. Although that the Royal Blue car having a bit of a scary moment. Yeah,
Kaloxai would have had his eyes out of his sockets there, I think. Looking at that was quite dangerous. But Yar Time just. As he got dived by Hoyer into turn 7, really ran him out of road through the next chicane, and then Hoyer returned the favour towards the end of the lap. But Bernick and Duval and those lot were much out of that trouble. Netrex had a good day, 3rd and 4th for them in the end. Dennis Jordan gaining some good positions. Alan Turzich then and Ricardo Costa, fairly solid races for them. Yannick Bock, I think, spent a bit too much time in traffic considering he was on the softer tyre. Jens Braxock and Remco Mazur obviously were involved in everything that we saw.
Yeah, so that worked out quite well for some of those alternate drivers, as we expected. But now they're going to have the disadvantage. So let's see what happens. But points, points went all the way down to 20th place. So these drivers on screen as well, also getting points all the way down to that final position with 1 point for 20th place before. Unfortunately, Kastorp having a bit of an issue at the start there, couldn't really get going, finishing a couple of laps down, and Jacob Reed as well having an issue on that formation lap, a lap down to finish the sprint race. But that is not over for today's racing. As we said, we still got the feature race to come, so now the drivers will just have a couple of minutes, and then we will get the reverse grid number to see who is going to be on that pole position. It will be a random number between 8 and 12. And that will be the number who is then reversed for the start of the feature race. And once again, they can start on whatever tyres they want. All they have to do is make sure they comply with the rule of using 2 primary tyres. And I believe it was only 6 drivers who used the alternate. So it was a bit of an interesting one. For those strategic people among you.
Yes, I'm not entirely sure if we might have missed one. I think there's 6. You think there's 6 certainly who went for those tyres. I think I could have sworn there was one more, but I might have just been. I think Carvalho was on softs, wasn't he? A little bit further down. Have we mentioned him? No, he wasn't actually. Never mind. So we didn't mention him, but we didn't have to. So yeah, 6. I think you were right. 6. I did indeed take the softs there, and they'll be taking 2 sets of primaries throughout this 41 lap race, and the rest of them just 1 set. But I guess it is still very important, even though most of the drivers are using the same strategy in terms of what tyres they can use here. When you use your set of primary tyres, very, very crucial. I would argue, especially if you're in the mid-pack or anywhere like that, I would argue getting them out the way early is a good idea. You don't want to be, as we've mentioned in that first race, you don't want to be spending your time on the alternate tyres in traffic like Yannick Bock did. I think a bit of a waste of alternate tyres for him, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know if that was a good idea for him to have done that. But Liam Duval definitely justified his decision, I would have said, by getting second. Dennis Jordan, kind of on the fence about that one. We'll see how the feature race really pans out for him. But if you're up towards the front and you're likely to be running in clean air early on in this race, then definitely put the softs on. If you're going to be in traffic, then I would be putting the primary tyres on to stay in traffic while you're losing time anyway.
Yeah, so just got a word from Race Direction. It will be the top 9 that is reversed, which means, if I'm not mistaken, it'll be Janos Brakshock who will be getting that pole position. So the top 9 will be flipped around, which means obviously Peter Berlak finishing in first will then go back down to that 9th place. And obviously that's the interesting part for someone like Berlak, is he's obviously got the win, but now he's going to be going back, and he's then going to have to overtake people while also having to use an extra set of the harder tyres. So we'll have to see how that one works out for him, if he's actually going to be able to gain those positions that we saw some other people do.
Yeah, to my point earlier, I would definitely be putting primaries on at the start of the race, because he's going to be in traffic early on. You know, I know he's going to be behind Vosnicker, and you know that's not going to be slow, but you do want to not be using your one remaining soft tyres not in traffic. It might well turn out at the end of the race is the final moment where you're not in traffic anymore, and that's when you use it, and that's absolutely fine as well, in my opinion. So we'll wait and see how it pans out, really. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Not entirely sure how far these guys can go on fuel cam, and I'm pretty sure you'll have a better idea than me. But in terms of how long you want to be going on these alternate tyres, that's something to consider as well, because it's not like the sprint race where you're not making a pit stop at all. There's different stint lengths that you can use, as well as the different tyre compounds as well, of course, in this feature race.
Yeah, so the I guess the main point we actually haven't really said yet, because it hasn't been relevant so far, is there's obviously refueling, as you would expect, but the tank is quite small. It's only 37 litres, and you do roughly 2 litres a lap around this track. So a bit of mental maths, that's about 17 laps that you can do. So obviously that means 2 times 17, you're not going to quite have enough to finish the race unless you want to save fuel for the whole race, so then you're going to be quite slow. But I think we're going to see a lot of 2 stops, and people maybe balancing out those a little bit more. So having maybe somewhere around the 15 lap mark for your stints. But the issue with the alternates is by the end of the 15 laps, they're quite a bit slower comparatively to the hards, which slow down a bit less. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some shorter stints from the guys on the alternates. But the issue is doing a long stint on the primaries, as we saw with the gap that Peter Berlak had to Wozniacka in the sprint race. You're going to lose a lot of time. So you've really got to be crucial when you make your pit stop and how much fuel that you're taking, because that obviously depends where you come in the train where you pit as well. So let's see the grid. Who is it going to be? I believe it's Brakshock. Yes, Brakshock on pole position from Yannick Bock, then Ricardo Costa and Alan Turzich in P4. So obviously these guys are trying to get the win now that they've been given a better position. Dennis Jordan there with Noah Rovers, Jan Wozniacka and Liam Duval in 8th position. And in 9th will be Peter Berlak, the winner of that sprint race. But remember, he has to take an extra set of the prime, so he might be a bit slower in the race. Behind him is Major, Rainey and Cass Rietveld there, making up some good progress in P12. Jake Dennehan in 13th, followed by Damien Skovron, Mitchy Hoyer and Pascal Schmidt, who also made up some good places in that sprint race just a few minutes ago. Then Timia Brenchik and Chukapeka Lalu, followed by Kloksai and Yartain there, who had that bit of a spin, which unfortunately has cost him some starting positions for the feature race. Zooks, Carlos Martin, Thomas Schwack and Roberto Pinataro rounding out the top 24 for the final few drivers on the grid. We've got Frenchie, Carvalho, Stepkowski and Jacob Reed here, rounding out the top 28. And I believe the final driver is going to be P29 of Yuri Kazdorp for Red Bull Racing eSports. So he's got some work cut out, but all positions in the feature race do get points of some description, starting with 35 for the leader, going all the way down to 1 point for 30th place. So points to be played for, and I think we're going to see some pretty spicy action once again.
Yeah, we certainly are, and no surprises in the top 3 there. I think they've all made good decisions. Brakshock, Bock and Costa all making good choices on the alternates. Jordan and Turzich, fair enough, primaries. Jordan, having already used a set of alternates, it's very understandable for him to be on the primaries once again. Turzich is going to be on the alternates to the end of the race after his first pit stop. I would question Noah Rovers and Jan Wozniacka. They might end up in it just depends how this race goes, because of course they could end themselves really struggling to get past a couple of these guys and waste a set of tyres, or they could race straight through and it could be a glorious call in a lap or two. So we'll wait and find out.
Well, let's see. Let's see how this does. Coming out of the final corner, we are going to. That's interesting. Bradshaw was on the left side. Now it's gone to the right hand side. So hopefully everything is okay. And as we come out the final corner, the feature race will be going for Season 2 of Indy Pro. Let's see how they get going. Looks like Miguel's already having a bit of an issue there in the background, so the drivers are very bunched up. This could be chaos coming down into turn number 1. Hopefully all of the drivers have it all good and have some nice warm brakes. Looks like Turzich there having a look down the inside, but it's going to be Bradshaw who is going to be holding out there with Costa going around the outside of Bot. Fortunately, they don't have a bit of contact, but it looks like most of the drivers in the background are getting through rather nicely, but it was turn 3, turn 4. That was the issue previously. Is anyone going to have a bit of an issue? Yeah, it's going to be the 2 Royal Blue cars, both of them going for a spin. One of the Netrex cars is gone around as well. Some chaos there as expected in turn 3. Seems to be such a difficult corner.
It absolutely is. Zooks has lost his front wing as well by the looks of things. There was so many pieces of bodywork actually looking at that corner there. We also saw Ferenczi going off at turn number 1. Michi Hoyer, his miserable day has continued, I'm afraid, because he is all the way down in what is 26th position. I think Denahan has been off with Ferenczi once again at the chicane there, so it's been an absolute disaster for some, but pretty good start from Braxo. He reacted well and obviously got off to a good start. Bock, pretty good save through turn 1, I have to say. He was right out sideways, but Costa capitalised and he's gone through. So the leaders have done pretty well. It was a little bit chaotic in the background, but everybody seemingly, or most of them anyway, are back going again now.
Someone who's made up good positions is Yuri Kazdorp from last, already up to P17, making up some good places there. And hopefully that can continue for him. But now obviously we're going to be getting into the race as we saw. The strategy and the fuel tank is going to be quite important for these drivers when they pit, and how many pit stops they are going to be making. We saw it was quite chaotic in the sprint race. Are they going to work that hard for the positions, or are they going to play a bit of the long game? We're about to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be very interesting. This race obviously 3 times as long as the last one, so that does change things about a great deal, as we see so many pit stops. Zooks, Smith, Hoyer all into the pit lane, but let's see quite how will this happen. Denahan, first of all, on board with him. Adam Rainey making contact with his teammate there down the inside, but a good move from the Wolves drivers first of all. But Bernick just turned across his nose ever so slightly. I think Denahan was maybe got a tiny bit greedy. He made a good move on the 2 Netrex cars, but trying to get through on Bernick was a big call. And this is Coloxite. Oh dear, Hoyer running into the back of him. And a lot of these guys didn't have many places to go.
That's a... Yeah, I mean, actually, Hoyer was a bit unlucky there, but also possibly could avoid that. As we're going to see Turzich try and dive down the inside. No, he's going to have to just back out of that one, but we also see Roivers defending from his teammate Jan Woznica as well. But yeah, without Michi Hoyer one, maybe it's hard to say just from seeing that one time, because it's a bit unfortunate with the way Robbie was spinning, but potentially could have also avoided that. Just a bit difficult to say when you're obviously in the first lap. You're always thinking everything's going forward, and then all of a sudden someone's facing you. It can be difficult. Jacob Reed also making up some good positions there for Valley eSports, having had a bit of a interesting sprint race for him, as I saw Yao Tyan has already come through the pit lane.
He has indeed. Well, many of these guys have already come through the pit lane, I'm afraid. I think Lalu has as well as Zook, Smith, Hoyer, all of those guys. I think they've been into the pit lane, I'm afraid. So not a good start for some of these guys. And I have to say I'm very impressed with Alan Turzich over this start. He's doing very well indeed, and keeping on the back of Yannick Bock, despite the fact he's on hard tyres and Bock is on the alternates. Doing a very, very good job here. And Roivers, Vosnica, both trying to get through, both Netrex P1 Sim Grand Prix cars, hounding him at the moment, but not getting anywhere really.
Oh, let's see this bit of a run from Turzich on Bock down in the inside of turn number 1. Bock on the outside with those alternate tyres, and he's going to be able to hold on just for now, though. Turzich actually going to have the inside, but he didn't quite have the traction. Is he going to have enough of his car alongside down inside turn 4? Not quite, as Bock is the racing room and the racing line there coming out to turn 4, but coming through the very fast chicane. Is Turzich going to be able to make a run? Despite being on the primaries, he's actually fighting pretty well. Wonder if there's maybe a fuel load difference. We'll soon find out. With Turzich down the inside there, is he going to be able to make that move stick up onto 3rd place? Yes, he has, and Bock down to 4th. Yeah,
absolutely. Bock struggling. Maybe it's just struggling to get out of the gate very, very easily here, because you saw early on in the last race as well, Bock was struggling, as here is the previous race winner, Petter Bernick would be very glad he put the primary tyres on at this stage, because he'll be stuck in traffic for the entirety of the first stint. There'll be no doubt about that. But obviously, we're on board with him. Jake Dennehan just tagged the 2015 world champion. Half spin for him, but it's enough to put him back all the way to 19th. As into the pit lane, one of the front runners by the looks of things. Alan Turzich is in already. I think you're absolutely right with your fuel load theory there, Camp.
Oh, let's first of all see. This is Rodger's going down the inside. He's going to be too late there. Is he going to just about make his corner? Yes, he is. Much later on the brakes actually than Yannick Bock. Bock, it looks like he's going to be going for the long game, because it seems that he's a bit slower than these guys around him, and we saw how fast he was in that sprint race. So I don't think it's him. I think he might just be playing the long game. We will soon find out. But Turzich already in, Bernick already in, Lalu as well. So with 35 laps to go, or 36 laps to go. That's pretty much the limit of 2 full tanks on the alternates, so I guess that's what they're doing, and they probably would have been quite light on the fuel, but let's see how this one works out for them, because they've obviously now got to go a long way on those alternates, and they're going to drop quite a lot.
Yeah, they probably are, but 36 laps to go, 2 18-lap stints with 37-litre fuel tanks is just about enough, with a litre to spare each time, so I think they'll be okay. By the looks of things in terms of that, but yeah, very good job from a very good strategy in theory, but let's see if it works out in practice. I suppose as Scroron also into the pit lane. It's going to be like this for basically the whole 40 laps, to be honest. People pitting all of the time. The pit windows are so wide that it's just going to be pandemonium in the pits the entire time, I'd imagine. But Vosnica making his way through. Bock continues to struggle early on in this stint, and now both Netbrex cars are through.
Yeah, let's see what Bock does here. Is he going to now stay with Vosnica, or is he going to drop off? Because we need to see actually sort of how fast or slow he is, really, because he's obviously losing these positions quite quickly. But also for those who have pitted, you can see Turzich down there in 19th place. He's got about 11 second gap ahead of him, so he can now really push into that gap and use those tyres and maybe go faster than some guys ahead of him and basically do a bit of an undercut.
Yeah, there's many strategic options for all of them, really. It's what makes the IndyPRO Championship kind of sets it apart from others, to be honest. It's a very interesting way to do things. So the gap for the race lead is still very small, by the way. Braxog and Costa are locked together, but for some reason Bock is a little bit struggling. As we were watching him a little bit earlier on, we'll see about the Netbrex guys. I want to see if they get up to these two as well. There's a lot to still happen here over the remaining point of the race, but looking on board very briefly with Costa here, it doesn't look like he particularly even wants to go through on the Honors competition car in front. He's just willing to stay behind for the moment.
Well, one interesting thing with a refueling type of race is if you sit behind someone, sit in the slipstream, maybe save a little bit of fuel, then at your pit stop, even if you have to pit on the same lap, you then might save a litre or 2 litres, so then you might actually have a shorter pit stop because you've got less to put back in, if you get what I'm trying to say. So that can also be a bit of a strategy in playing the long game. But now Deval on the back of Dennis Jordan, looks like he hasn't quite got enough speed there coming towards turn 7, but that is actually the lead for the prime runners. But now let's have a look. Petter Bernick and Jarl Tyen, these guys have already made pit stops, and Petter Bernick there, not sure if he was overtaking or defending, but either way he's in that 21st position, and I believe it was actually gaining a place for the Croatian driver, and he's now got a bit of a gap ahead of him, so let's see what he can do, because he's obviously got some work to do after having that spin in turn 1. And let's get a bit of a replay here.
Yeah, this is exactly how he got through on Jarl Tyen. Looks like there wasn't a late defence. It's just going to be I'll say easy move. It was quite sketchy on the brakes. Big lock up there and quite wide, but Bernick was able to make that through. He has indeed pitted. He obviously started on the primary tyres, which I thought was a good call, but he, obviously being in the middle of the order off of this start has really set him back. He got involved in an early incident, so pitting early. Now he's into a bit of clean air. He can hopefully use those alternate tyres to put a bit of pace on and go quite quickly, so that he can gain some of those positions without having to actually overtake many people. But obviously he's going to have a long stint on the primaries to end off this race, which could leave him a bit exposed.
Yeah, any long stint on those primaries is going to be quite difficult, because I'd say you're half second lap slower, but then for a whole 15 laps or so, that's really going to stretch out a gap and cars around you than those drivers who have obviously done that short sort of 5, 6, 7 lap stint on the hards. So yeah, just obviously a balancing game between the drivers to find out what they can do. And we're seeing here Carvalho. To say the truth, I haven't heard of him before, but it's good to see new names coming into Formula Sim Racing and him drumming up with his compatriots Ricardo Costa there in the Juanaco car, the number 22. Let's see if he can get a bit of a run here on Carlos Martin coming towards turn number 1. Martin on those hard tyres. Carvalho getting a good run out of that final corner. You see the slipstream giving him a really good effect, and that's actually a fairly nice pass down the inside as long as he gets it nice and square on the brakes, which he does. And there's Carvalho up into P12.
Yeah, pretty nice move there from Carvalho, and seeming as we have never heard of him before, neither of us, doing very well, and obviously someone that Costa knows quite well by the sounds of things, and doing a good job for Juanaco as things stand. Not about halfway through this stint though at this stage, if they're going to run in this one very long, and I expect these guys at the front to maybe do so, but I feel like Costa's being held up ever so slightly by Brexog at the moment. I think he could maybe go a little bit quicker if he was allowed to, but not being able to get through at the moment is really costing him, and you can see getting the run off of this final corner is difficult, even with Brexog clipping the grass there and not making a fantastic run off of the final corner. He's not really able to make any inroads here, is Costa. He's gaining on the straight, but not able to get down the inside at all, and he's going to have to stay behind once more.
Yeah, it's interesting from Costa. Obviously, we're going to find out in time, but I want to see if he's staying there, as you said, by choice, or if he is just not able to overtake. Because we have seen, all of the other cars being able to overtake, not easily, but fairly comfortably. And I just wonder if Costa is just in a nice position at the moment. They got 3 seconds behind. Let's see now. Casrivel down the inside of Alan Turzich. Actually, I think this other way. I think Turzich now finally getting past some drivers. I said he had that 10-second gap. He's clearly caught that all the way up, and it was already starting to get past some of these drivers. Casrivel there dropping down a little bit from his starting position, with Kasdorp now up into P11 from the back of the grid, and we need to find out what Kasdorp is going to do with his strategy, because he obviously had a bit of a weird sprint race where he didn't actually really get to race too much. So let's see what he does. But P11 at the moment.
Yeah, it's a very weird one actually in the sprint race, and used a sort of alternate tyres for it as well. But into the pit lane now after 10 laps for him, and so 30 laps remaining. He's going to be trying to come in the pit lane here. A bit of a lock up on the entry. Quite a tricky one actually. It's walls either side and it's quite narrow, and yet braking around a bend as well, which is never a good idea, especially in this car. It's a bit of a tricky one, but he's managed to get in here and making a pit stop for the first time in this race. Not many drivers who haven't made a pit stop at this stage. There's been a lot of them happening in the early portion of this one. I believe it's only the top 11 who haven't at this stage. Turzich probably the first one who's pitted.
And we've got quite a few drivers coming into the pit lane now, so it's after 11 laps. So let's see what they go on to, but that would be a pretty comfortable sort of 10, 15, 15 strategy, trying to have still a nice stint on the alternates, but then also not too long on the hards either. As come back to Woznica, trying to get past his teammate Rivers, and I think these two drivers are going to be ones to look out for, definitely for the Constructors' Championship, and maybe either of them for the Drivers' Championship over the course of the 5 rounds that we are going to. Jan Woznica getting a bit of run here down on the inside for turn 1, but he's actually going to back out of that one and maybe just trying to sit there for now. But as you can see on the tower, loads of drivers now going to those alternate tyres.
Yeah, they are. There's a lot of primaries getting out of the way early on. I think that's a smart choice for a lot of these guys. As I said earlier, if you're not out front in clean air, then you shouldn't really have the alternate tyres on unless things start to spread out a bit, which they have done at this stage, and so it's a bit more sensible to put those alternate tyres on. But if you just look at Peter Bernick at the moment, 14th position, third of those who hasn't pitted at the moment. So, third of those who have pitted. Now, obviously, that's not quite going to translate into a net third position when it all shakes out, but you just see the amount of time he's gained on alternate tyres in clean air. Think of the amount of people he will have jumped with the pace that he's shown in this race. Despite the setback that he had earlier on, he is making the best of a bad situation right now and doing a very good job at limiting the damage. I think he is a real contender to be reckoned with throughout this championship season, and it's going to be difficult to displace him. Obviously got off to a great start to last year's IndyPRO Championship. Obviously a couple of bad races and it really fell apart for him, but we'll see what he can do this year as the Netrexes go side by side into one.
And let's see who's going to come out on top. It looks like Wozniac's going to finally get past. And he's had a bit of a issue there. Kasdorp has gone around. But I think there was an issue for Jan Wozniak there as well. He's dropped down to 4th place. Couple of seconds behind Rovers. Not sure what went on there, but there seems to be a bit of a random situation. And unfortunately, I don't know if they're connected, but let's see what happens to Kasdorp. Unfortunately for him, having a bit of an issue. He's going to go on that curb out to turn 6, now down into turn 7 behind Carlos Martin. And he's going to just get a bit caught out by Martin, moving to the right a little bit on the brakes. And to be honest, there's not much Kasdorp could have done there.
That was very weird. I don't know why Martin was on the brakes so early and why. Yeah, I don't know how that happened anyway, but that was the end of Kasdorp's day. And we'll see about Wozniak now as well, because he was down the inside of his teammate Rovers. I was just beginning to wonder whether these two would be better swapping around, but this might be why they didn't in the first place. Are there even any team orders going on here? At least let's hope they don't hit each other here.
Who did he hit? He hit someone. That must have been the Evolution.
He's hit someone at he's hit Bock at the end, or Bock's hit him. So, well, not exactly like he could have done anything about it, but still, that's a very unfortunate moment, a bit of a lag moment, and dropping way down there. So that's cost Wozniak a good couple of seconds, and be very frustrating for him. But his race is not over, of course.
Yeah, that might hinder Bock as well. If he's got some front wing damage there, that could really hinder the balance of the car. And I don't believe you can adjust the front wing, so he can't do much in a pit stop or anything. He might just have to repair that, which could be a little bit of an issue. But now, back to the lead. Lap 14 of the race. These guys have got to be coming to be making their pit stop fairly shortly, but it is still Ricardo Costa following from Janos Brakshock. We haven't really mentioned him so far, but actually Brakshock coming into the pit stop already. But Brakshock moved teams from HM Engineering to Arnage Competition, which is obviously the pink machine, as you see, coming into the pit lane already, making their team's debut. But obviously Brakshock's been around for a few seasons now in FSR. And let's see what he's going on to. Another set of the alternate tyres, which means he will need to do another pit stop, obviously, for the primaries. He will indeed. And I'm sure there are many in the similar situation to what he's in at the moment. But it's been a good start to the race for Brakshock. We'll see if it can continue on in that fashion. And where Turzich is, I'm very interested to see, because obviously a bit of an undercut going on there. But I believe Brakshock will be able to get out in front quite comfortably. I say comfortably. It's a little bit comfortable. So Costa's going to be able to get out just in this little gap here, you'd imagine, that's opened up between these two. And then Rovers and Wozniak are very much embedded within everybody else here, with the likes of Skrovron and Berliak. They're going to be very near too. So it's going to be interesting to see how this really pans out and what happens in the final stint, really, because obviously there's still a lot to change here. And the pit stops for Turzich and Berliak, etc., are going to be a little bit longer than those who are running long now. Yes, let's first of all side by side through the chicane. Look at this jump. He manages to avoid it. Liam Duval, he was very fortunate there to not have a bit of a jump there. And there's a bit of contact actually with Rainey. Someone has gone around on the back straight yard tying for BS competition. Unfortunately, having a bit of a spin there. I think he's going to be DNFing, but Duval now all over the grass. Who's going to come out on top? Looks like Adam Rainey after a bit of a good fight there between these drivers. A bit of a bump. Rainey manages to catch it. And now Duval is behind, and that was getting, well, in general, some of this racing getting a little bit fruity, but drivers still managing to keep in the same directions. We're seeing some more pit stops. Costa, Rovers, Vac, and Carvalho all coming into the pit lane. But that important point for Turzich is he will have another set of the alternates to go to the end, whereas Brakshock will have the primaries. The only difference is Turzich's stint will be a bit longer. So he might have to carry a bit, or he will have to carry a bit more fuel, therefore. But coming down into turn number 1, looks like these guys are going to stay in their same positions for now. Let's have a look at some of the things that have been going on over the last couple of laps. Yorchian recently retired from the race for BS competition, and
this is exactly how it happened through the chicane that we saw a bit of a side-by-side moment a couple of moments ago, and getting it sideways even before. Well, good avoidance from Carlos Martin there, actually, in the background, who would have had a very scary moment, you'd imagine, there, looking at the back of Tian, but just retires from the session there, I'm afraid. He's had a very difficult day as Tian, and so he's called it a day there, and it goes back to the pit lane. Vosnicker now in the pits. We'll see where he comes out, because he's going to be very, very close to Petter Bernick, if not just behind, I would imagine, at this stage.
Yeah, let's see how this one works out for the guys pitting now. Is it going to be overcut? Is it going to be undercut? We will soon find out. Costa's actually lost quite a bit of time to Brakshock in that pit stop sequence as well. So maybe something a little bit different going on there. Maybe he made a mistake. We'll have to find out shortly. Jan Wozka has also lost time as well. So maybe that undercut is better. And let's see Deval now on the back for Adam Rainey towards the inside of turn number 1. Rainey's going to be looking down the inside. 3 wide coming into turn number 1. Is Deval going to be able to make 2 positions in a couple of corners? Yes, he is. Round the outside of turn 2. That is a very audacious move by Liam Deval. I don't think he was really planning that, but Jacob Reed also helped and cooperated in that not being a crash, and he managed to get 2 positions. Yeah,
very good racing between the 3 of them for that to all pan out in the way that we wanted to see, certainly. So a good job from all of them there, as Noah Roivers gets through on Scuvron as we were expecting. But yeah, seeing Ricardo Costa so close to Roivers was a big surprise. There's a missing 10 seconds or so somewhere here, because Costa was right behind Brakshock, and we know undercuts are fairly useful, but they're not 9 seconds worth in one lap. So I don't know quite what's gone on there. There's something unexplained. A spin maybe somewhere that's been going on, but yeah, that's really costly for Costa, actually, having dropped down in those positions. Net 3rd position, I believe, at the moment.
Yeah, and the times obviously do fluctuate quite a bit, but Turzich, I think, maybe has lost a bit of time to Brakshock as well, if I'm not mistaken, over the last couple of laps. So, God, the strategy game is really so interesting. It changes every pit stop and every 5 laps during the race. Hard to work out who is going to come out on top as Adam Rainey. I believe they're getting past Jacob Reed as well. Reed there, one of the only drivers still out on those primary tyres. Seems like a lot of drivers trying to use those alternates, of course, after pretty much all of the field using the primaries already in that sprint race.
Yeah, I have a theory as well that Costa and Turzich to come together, because since you mentioned Turzich has lost some time as well, I remember thinking Costa and Turzich are going to come out very close to each other here. I just wonder if they actually did and then came into contact with each other when Costa left the pit lane, but we'll wait and see on that one. 18 laps complete at the front. Dennis Jordan's going up for 19, which is a bit of an extraordinary effort, really, on the prime tyres. Surely he isn't going for a one-stop here. Surely not. But you never know, I suppose, with Dennis Jordan. He's not too far in front of the leaders at the moment either, so it would be an audacious one as Yannick Bock leaves on the primary tyres, as he's only got those remaining.
The interesting thing for Jordan, well, first of all, let's see Petter Bernick here. Already with Jan Wozka. Remember, Petter Bernick, he was spun around at turn 1, turn 2, but he's already on the back after making the same amount of pit stops of the guys batting in the top 5. So that just shows you how pitting early, getting yourself actually, I mean, obviously this wasn't by his choice, but pitting early and getting yourself sort of away from the traffic is obviously going to help yourself and get yourself in a better position after quite a few laps. There's Rifeld there, so much more grip around the outside of turn 2. There's a bit of contact there, manages to keep it in line, but that was so close to Rifeld having a really nice move.
It was a very, very scary moment for the both of them as we go back to Vosnicker, on the back of Scrovron, down the inside this time. Surely it's going to be done, and it is indeed. Not able to come around the outside. Jordan comes in after 19 laps, so he was able to save an extra half lap from what we were expecting, but not quite the extra 1.5 that he needed to make this on a one-stop, deciding to go for the strategy of everybody else, and he pits now, but his final pit stop is barely going to be a splash, to be honest.
Although what he might do now is, because he's committed to a 2-stop, he might then cut this next bit in half into a couple of 10-lap stints, rather than obviously a long one and short one. So he might actually be able to just absolutely smash those tyres, although he's actually gone on to the primes, of course, because he used the softs again. So what he might do is then obviously now try and make a shorter one. He obviously tries to make the one-stop work, doesn't look like it's going to be able to, because if he couldn't do 20 laps then he's not going to be doing 20 laps now.
Well, you need 21, and that's definitely not going to happen. So,
although
yeah.
there was obviously the extra lap for the formation lap. So, we'll see. We'll see. Because he didn't have any slipstream either, really, in that first stint, because he was the leader of the prime tyres. So we'll see. But I would expect Dennis Jordan to come in again.
I think what might happen is that he might not bother changing tyres in the last stint. He might just have a real quick dash of fuel to a couple of laps, because he doesn't need to change tyres again, does he? He's used both of the primary tyres that he needs to. So, and changing tyres is certainly going to be longer than putting in 2 or 3 laps of fuel. So he might just not even bother with the tyres towards the end. We'll wait and see. But Petter Bernick down the inside into 6th position right now. What a great recovery. It just shows not only we're thinking about pit strategy in terms of a normal way, but if your race goes badly, you can use pit strategy to make it go well again. And that's exactly what Bernick has done today.
Oh, definitely, because he's got 1 remaining pit stop, like all the guys around him. And he's actually got some decent gaps behind him as well. So I think Bernick is still looking at a pretty decent top 10 finish here. We'll have to obviously see how that one works out. But I think he's still not going to be in too bad a place. Obviously started 9th place here. But we'll see. Obviously got some good points in that sprint race as well. So let's see how that one goes for him. Remco Major now coming down towards the outside of Thomas Schwack. I don't think we've seen a move on the outside on this corner in turn 7. Is he going to be able to make that work on those alternate softer compound tyres with all the grip? Yes, he can. And the virtual drivers by Tix3 driver gets himself up into the top 50.
Yeah, he does indeed, as we go up to Yannick Bock, who has been overtaken, and it will be quickly... or the 2 in front will quickly get away from him, I'd imagine, but we'll wait and see on that one. Scrovron, I'd imagine, not too far away from pit stop. Likewise with Bernick, who I think will actually be coming in this lap now, with 18 laps to go. Down the inside for Bock. He might... Oh dear, very much rear locking there, but not able to make his way through.
Yeah, that was... He thought about it, but it wasn't really going to make it work. As we now see Stokowski going down the inside of David Kloksai, now around the outside of turn number 2. That seems to be such a nice sequence of corners there to have a bit of battling with Stokowski just having that upper ground and able to go around the outside there of turn 2 as we come back up towards the front. Ricardo Costa has got back in front of Alan Turzich, so Turzich, who actually must be coming towards the end of his stint now, because he pit on lap 5 or something, maybe struggling a bit with those alternate tyres. As we said, they do drop off quite a bit, and he will then have another sort of 17-18 lap stint towards the end of the race.
In he is now, because he can't go any further with the fuel and probably these tyres as well. Looking at that, oh dear. Well, that was very nearly into the barriers on the left-hand side, but he's managed to keep things going in the right direction, and Bernick is going to be following him in here as well. So long stops for these guys. We're speaking about Turzich and Bernick doing very well in their pit strategy, getting themselves back towards the front. The only disadvantage they have is these long pit stops, which they're really about to suffer from, because we're speaking about Dennis Jordan maybe not even taking any tyres at all, just having a little bit of fuel. Certainly guys like Costa and Roivers, Vosnica, much shorter pit stops at the end of this race compared to the 2 that have just come in.
Yeah, that is obviously the sort of the route, the swings, I should say, of how this is going to go, because the guys pitting now, they might get a bit of an undercut because they're going to be on the fresh tyres, but then, as you say, the guys later will just simply have to take less fuel, so they will have to be stopped for less time in the pit stop, so they might just randomly gain maybe even 5 seconds just from that, depending on how extreme it is. So that could obviously swing things both ways, as Casrivo having a bit of a slide there, coming out of turn 10 and going onto the grass, and hopefully he's able to keep it on track as we come down towards turn 13. Actually down the inside, Benchik there, coming past, pushing Reveld off just a little bit, not really leaving the Netrex driver enough space, and I would say, Reveld just got sort of pushed out of room there just a little bit into turn 13.
Yeah, I'd like to see it again. To see quite what was going on there. Revo was a little bit out of control, but wasn't quite given enough room there, was he really? And goes for a spin down to 24th now, I'm afraid to say. So he's going to have to try and recover from that. He was stationary for quite a long time as well, but there we are. He's back going again now, I think. Oh no, he's actually DNF from the race. So there we are. He's unfortunately out. But there we are. A few more pit stops happening right now. Koloksai and Skrovron both into the pit lane, and Yeah, lots of battles still going on up and down, but they're all about to hot up a little bit later on when this race finally comes to a conclusion. Why is Alan Turzich 15 seconds behind Peter Bernick? I'm just looking down.
I was just about to think the same. Turzich has lost time somewhere because he should be up sort of ahead of Bernick, ahead of Skovron, etc. He must have had a bit of an issue. He's off already in, I think that's turn 3, maybe. So I think just on the that's just on the cold tyres out of the pits, having a bit of a wiggle because there are no tyre blankets. So when you come out of the pit lane for the first lap, your tyres are still cold and getting up to speed. And let's see what he does coming towards this sort of chicane out of the pit lane. Already goes over the line, but then I think here just on the... Oh, no, he had a bit of an issue there. He definitely had a bit of an issue. There was a bit of a stutter. Oh, his wheel having a bit of it. So something I think hardware or software related happened there because he just went straight in a right-handed corner. And
Remco Rodger and Demis Topalski were about to have lift off there, I'm afraid, through the chicane, but fortunately everybody keeps it together, and Braxok trying to win a race here because he's come in from the lead as we were watching those replays. This is not what he needs whatsoever. He's just out in front of Dennis Jordan, and he's out in front of obviously Bernick. We're expecting that, but he needs to stay in front of Costa by the end of this one, and having Rodger and Stopalski battle straight in front of him in the face is not going to be very helpful.
Oh, this is an interesting one. So Braxok, he's then already made his pit stop, which was a bit earlier than I would have expected, considering how long he stayed on that first one. So I don't know. That's just a bit of a weird one. So he's going to obviously, as you say, he's now going to have to work through some traffic. The issue is the cars ahead of him are on the alternates and he's on the primaries, so he might struggle with that just a little bit as Martin and Rainey come into the pit lane as well for their pit stops, I assume, going towards the end of the race from here. And it's still so difficult to work out who's really going to be in the best position for now. Costa will have to take the primes as well, but it looks like he's going longer, which means that he then might have a shorter pit stop and could then jump Braxok. So we're still yet to find out really how this one's going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Roivers and Vosnica both have to take the primaries as well, so there's not going to be an advantage in that respect. But be interesting to see the lap times here of Braxok as this race continues on. What are they going to be compared to the alternate runners up front? I know those tyres are a little bit older up front, but they are the softer compound compared to Braxok. So what's the dynamic going to be there between those two? It will be very interesting. But obviously we've got to wait a few laps for that to really normalise, as Martin and Rainey look like they're going to battle once again. They have been for quite a long time in this feature race, at least, into the left-hander at the end of the straight, and it's going to be a fairly nice move for Adam Rainey, who's finally moving upwards rather than getting overtaken, which he was for quite a long time in the sprint race.
And let's see now, Braxok on the back of Stepkowski, but Stepkowski on those alternate tyres. So Braxok here might have a bit of a... Obviously he's got newer ones, but they're still going to be just a little bit slower with the harder compound. He's getting very close though, but it looks like Stepkowski is going to be defending and all just locking up there a bit into turn 4. That could give Braxok a bit of a run coming out of turn 5 and 6. This very tricky chicane to stay flat out when you want to be making an overtake, and someone is off in turn 4. I can see on the map, trying to work out just who is it Major maybe? I can't quite see anyone going down. Oh, it's Carvalho, yeah. He's now gone back to the pit lane. So Carvalho, unfortunately, having a DNF from a fairly decent position.
Yeah, from a top 10, which he was in at the time, just behind Dennis Jordan here. Looks like a singular car incident though, from what I can tell. Unless there's something going on behind us that we're not quite aware of. He's just gone steaming into turn 4 and gone for a spin, I'm afraid. So that's the end of his day. Does he get stuck? Looks like he was maybe stuck there. But either way, he's certainly out of the race now. And we're down to what is going to be only 22. It's been a very attritional race, this feature race.
Yeah, it was. I was expecting a lot more, to be honest, because as we were mentioning already earlier during the show, the car is not the easiest to drive in the world. You've been seeing the drivers get a bit squirmy, really struggling like Carvalho sort of on the brakes as well. So yeah, I was expecting some more, but a lot of the drivers seem to have actually tamed it pretty well so far, which is good. Although Reed there, as I say, just in a bit of a dirty air of Turzich as well, just losing the rear end just a tiny bit. Unfortunately, that's going to lose his chance to try and get back at the BS competition driver. But Turzich now, see, this is sort of what happened to him a little bit last season as well. He was really fighting for the championship up until I think the third round we had in Sebring. He was really sort of getting close. Unfortunately, he just had a couple of random races like this where he had the pace, but just a couple of things happened here and there. And of course, I'm sure he's just trying to have a bit of fun rather than focus on the championship. But for sure, being down 15th place isn't going to help that.
No, not really. Obviously minimising the amount. I know that I don't think today's incident particularly was his fault, but minimising the kind of point loss in that respect is what you really need to do here. And I can't think of any other driver who's done it better than Petr Bernick here today. You know, we've had a decent run for Costa in the first race, and both Netrex cars did as well. But Bernick has certainly done the best, I would have said, out of everybody in these first couple of races. Obviously, it's not over yet, and this battle doesn't look like it's over either by the looks of things. Reed and Coloxai side by side through the entirety of the final sector. Reed just shoves out the previous Academy champion of 1 year ago to 16th position, that is.
And there's some batting just ahead of them as well. Turzich now on the back of Tomasz Vak. And also Carlos Martin there coming into turn 1. Is Alan going to get down the inside of turn number 1? That's going to give him the outside for turn 2. Seems to be a favoured overtaking opportunity around this track. And he manages to get past there, already up into top 4, P14. And if you look at the gaps ahead of him, he might even be able to get up to maybe Adam Rainey, P11, which obviously is not, you know, an amazing result, but it'd still be pretty good considering he was beached in the gravel at one point as well. So let's see how he can progress his race a little bit further, as there's still 10 laps to go.
Yes, a nice terrain on our screen at the moment. It's basically from Rainey all the way down to what is probably Coloxai at the moment, as Duval gets through on Bock. That not really a surprise. Duval's been doing a lot of that today on alternate tyres, getting through on the guys on primaries, and he's another driver who's had a very good day today. Obviously lost out on a few points to Bernick in the first race, but might well lose out on a few more in this one, but he's done a very good job for himself once again. Not quite sure what happened to him in the first stint, really. He seemed to drop completely off my radar anyway, and he's managed to get himself slightly up the order now, but I think that's partly because everybody else has come into the pit lane, so I'm not really sure where he's going to end up here, but certainly completely dropped off the face of the earth, it seemed, through the first half of this race, but coming back up towards the 4 again now.
Oh, Alan Turzich again, another move, this time on Carlos Martin up into P13. That move looked like it was through turn 1, 2, very powerful around the show. Oh, Martin, did he save it? Oh, he just went off the screen. Yeah, he did manage to save it. Good job, Carlos Martin there, because that could have very easily done what Jartine did in the background. We got a battle with his teammate Jacob Reed and Tomasz Vak as well. Oh, it's a bit of a spin. Reed got lost out there. I think he actually almost stalled it. Manages to bump it into gear and get going again. Reed very unlucky there because it looks like Vak just spun in front of him.
It did, really. We didn't quite catch the full story there, so let's take a look on board with Jacob Reed. As, by the way, in live pictures, Ricardo Costa's come in the pit lane, so we'll have a look at that in a moment. But Jacob Reed coming up behind Vak. It spun into the back, really, didn't he? Yeah. I think he was he giving the position back? Well, I think you might be right that he might have stalled it or certainly halted himself there for some reason. But he certainly wasn't going to take advantage of Vak having that half spin there, I wouldn't imagine, as we see. Whereas Costa come out 7th position at the moment behind Vosnica, who's also been in the pit lane.
And getting past, that was Pascal Smith, unfortunately, is a lap down. He was getting past, but this is starting to get a little bit interesting. Dennis Jordan is, I would say, net P2, only 4 seconds off Brackshot. But look at the cars coming behind him. We've got Jan Woska getting past him, actually. And then we've also got Ricardo Costa not too far behind as well. Dennis Jordan, we still don't know who is going to be, if he's going to be coming to the end of the race or not, or if he's going to make a final pit stop. We will find out, and the slipstream from these guys is probably going to be helping him a little bit with that one as well. Noah Roivers into the pit lane for a very short final stop, as Jordan is wiggling a bit, maybe not too happy with what Woznica did earlier.
Well, I'm not sure if that's our body language, because he's just left let Ricardo Costa through, so I think that was the international sign for please pass me now, but I'm not entirely sure. really, because that kind of wiggle doesn't really mean much to me, I must say. But Noah Roivers has been in the pit lane. He's got out in front of both Woznica and Costa. I think the more we stay on board here with Dennis Jordan, obviously I can't hear what's going on, but I can see, and there's a lot of lifting off going on, I'll say that much.
Yeah, I would assume, he is going to be going for the, for the one stop, because the awkward thing is, you obviously have to do the formation lap, which takes, let's say a litre of fuel. So that really obviously takes maybe half a lap of what you could do. So the first stint, I believe he pitted after lap 19, but that was obviously effectively 20, including the formation lap. And now he's got to do 21. So I don't know. It might be a bit tight. We will see as Liam DeVout comes in from the lead of the race, as well as Stupkowski. So Brakshock retakes the lead of the race. But who is going to be challenging? It looks like Noah Roivers has done a good job with his strategy, because he is 2 seconds ahead of his teammate. And it looks like he's going to be batting for the race lead now with Brakshock, because Costa, Woznica, etc. have all dropped off. And that strategy, with that shorter final pit stop, has worked wonders for Roivers so far. Yeah,
it's a great fight to the end, bubbling up here, because the top four are separated by just about 4 seconds, and I think they've all got a chance of winning this race, quite possibly. Brakshock is out front at the moment. Duval, by the way, just got out in front of Bernick, and I'd be impressed if Jordan can hold on from either of them, to be honest, but he might be able to. In 5th place at the moment. Further back, Koloxai getting through on Jacob Rees. There's plenty going on, but this battle for the race lead, I think, is going to be absolutely on until the end of this race now. 7 laps to go at the line.
Yeah, it's getting to that crunch time. Noah Roivers already on the back of Janos Brakshock. Brakshock has effectively led the race pretty much all the way so far. He obviously dropped back because of strategy, etc. But he was always in the net race lead after. Oh, no, Roivers! Wow! Congratulations, Noah, saving that almost full opposite lock. And he has potentially saved himself a race victory coming up soon. We will find out, because he needs to get on the back of Brakshock. But that opportunity went after that big slide.
That was quite outrageous, actually, going through the final corner. Just got on that curb on the right-hand side a little bit too much, and he really got out of shape, but thankfully catches it as the gap all closes up. They all kind of elastic band together, and it all compresses for the top 4 positions in the battle for the race lead. Brakshock trying to hold on at the moment, and I have to say, this battle for the race win is between 4 drivers. I wasn't really expecting to be up there for a race win here tonight in the feature race or sprint race over the course of the evening, but they've all had fantastic events so far, and Roivers looking very strong right now. Brakshock is in a lot of trouble here if he wants to hold on.
Yeah, he certainly is. Roivers, he's got the extra pace. I think it's a matter of if, not when. But we did see Brakshock hold on from Costa for the first sort of 10-15 laps of the race. So it's definitely possible, but we have seen Slipstream be fairly powerful. It's just you need to make sure you get a run out of this final corner. No, Roivers this time having a bit of a better run. This could be game over for Janos Brakshock in terms of the race victory, because he's also got Woznica coming up behind as well. He's gone towards the outside. He's going to give Roivers the inside, and this is going to be Roivers taking the race lead here at the feature race for Indianapolis. And there he goes for Netrex P1 Sim Grand Prix. And Roivers is now going to try and pull away and see if his teammate can get second place.
Yeah, that move was absolutely coming, though. There's no doubt about that. It was certainly on, and no surprise to see Roivers get through in the end. It's looking like Brakshock is in a great deal of trouble, with Woznica right behind as well for Netrex once again. Maybe down the inside later on the brakes, more confidence, and maybe the move as well. Just about enough room given to the Honours car, and they give each other nice room through the S's as well. Good racing between the two, but there was only ever going to be one winner in that fight between the two of them. It's a Netrex 1-2.
And Costa was miles behind Brakshock at one point, but he's managed to catch up with, again, a bit of a shorter final pit stop. I think Brakshock just pit a little bit too early. Didn't really use the speed of that second set of alternate tyres, and he's now really sort of struggling, and we've still got 5 laps to go. So if he's not too lucky, maybe one of the cars behind, actually the gap's a little bit big, so he might be all right for this 4th place. But let's see Ricardo Costa coming towards turn number 1. He's getting that slipstream. Is he going to be later on the brakes than Brakshock? Yes, he is. Oh, that's a really late dive from Ricardo Costa around the outside of turn 2. Is it going to be enough? But no, Brakshock is going to hold on. Costa needed to be just that tiny bit closer into turn number 1, but now into turn number 4. Is he going to dive it down? Yes, he is. Is space going to be given by the Arnage driver, which he has, and Costa there up onto the podium, and Brakshock losing 3 places within 1 lap.
Yeah, absolutely. As Bernick is about to experience a similar fate, I fear, because there's a lot of soft tyre runners behind him. Skrovron is one of them. Remco Major is following on. Adam Rainey, Daniel Stepowski is on the primaries, but he's close in attendance as well as Turzich and Martin as well. So Bernick is going to have a lot of defending to do over these final 4 laps as well. But what a great story it is at the front of the field. Noah Royver's best finish in the 2020 IndyPro Championship was 9th place, and that was the only Netrex got all season long, and they're winning this race 1-2 with 4 laps to go.
Yeah, really, 2022 is going to be a big year for those 2 drivers, with Roivers and Woznica for that Netrex P1 Sim Grand Prix team. They've got a new sponsor on board, they've got 2 young, hungry drivers, and it looks like they're really starting to come to their peak of ability. So even for the main season of FSR as well, look out for them when we get to that point. But for now, for the IndyPro Championship, as you say, they are leading 1-2. But on screen, can we see Bernick hold on to this 8th position? We saw Brakshock struggling on the older primary tyres, but now let's see what Skrovron can do. Not this lap into turn number 1, having a bit of a lock up, and Bernick manages to hold on, but the alternate tyres behind, they're going to be coming.
They absolutely are, yeah. Skrovron and Mazur are already here. Rainey is going to be probably by the end of the lap, really. And Bernick, despite the fact he's recovered well from, I think he was 19th after the first lap or so, he's recovered well from that. But, you know, compared to where he should be at this stage, he's not really up towards where you'd expect. Side by side, Mazur on the outside line and can't make it stick just for the moment. But he gave it a good go there.
Yeah, he certainly did. And this battling is actually just going to be helping Bernick just get away a little bit, because it's going to mean Skrovron is going to be that little bit further away with the slipstream as well. And there's no sort of aids apart from the slipstream, as you're down the inside into the stadium section, not quite enough. But yeah, there's no aids, there's no sort of push to pass, there's no DRS or anything like that. It's just the slipstream that the drivers have. But as we've seen, certainly possible to overtake into turn 1 as long as you can get a good run out of this final corner, which Major just about did. But is he going to be close enough to get a good run on Skrovron? It looks like he's really getting into the slipstream now. Can he get himself down the inside? Yes, he can. And this is just helping Bernick ahead of them. But for this position, for P9, it's going to be Major.
Yep, straight through, as side by side Stepowski is suffering a similar fate to Bernick at the moment, although the Croatian is holding on to positions at the moment. The RSR driver's just been overtaken there by Adam Rainey, who's knocking on the door of a top 10 at the moment. Bit wide for Bernick there, but continues on in 8th and might be able to hold on here. He's got only a couple of laps to go, so there is a chance that he will finish in this position, and obviously that will be very helpful for him in the championship, considering Woznica is up the road gaining points, and the likes of Costa Jordan are as well.
We've just been told that Rainey's got a penalty, presumably for cut tracks, which is not good, because I believe that is a drive-through penalty, and he's going to drop way down with that. He's still obviously going to be fighting for those last few positions, but he's not going to enjoy that, especially as we're already coming onto the penultimate lap of the race. It is getting towards that time where the drivers need to finalise where their positions are going to be, and that battling has let maybe Bernick off the hook a little bit, because look at the gap he's got, and we're now going to be seeing just behind them Stepkowski go to the inside of Adam Rainey, down the inside into turn number 1. Can he make it stick? He's going to have the outside for turn number 2. Rainey just not having quite enough room, or a bit of contact. Rainey, he was really a bit too far off the left, I'd say, to come on for turn 2, having a bit of contact, and if he does have a penalty, he needs to serve it this lap. Otherwise, it will be added to the end of the race. Let's get a replay.
Yeah, let's see if he was just... Oh, dear me. That could have ended really badly, but I'm not entirely sure if he was pushed out here. Yeah, for me, he was pushed out entirely there. And I don't think that is all Adam Rainey's fault at all. I think the spin probably was in the end, but the fact that he was pushed out onto the grass there by Stepkowski shouldn't be a thing, really, but it's becoming increasingly common these days to do that. As Turzich has indeed got through on the RSR driver, we're on board with him now, trying to fight back, but Turzich trying to recover, and has done a decent job with that 11th position at the moment, knocking on the door of a top 10, but doesn't look like he's going to get one.
Yeah, he might just be a little bit too far away from Skrovron, but to be honest, good recovery from Turzich compared to where he was a few laps ago. Now getting onto the final lap of the race. We need to obviously see where the leaders are going to be coming around fairly shortly, but for now it's going to be Alan Turzich defending into turn number 1. We got Stilkowski around the outside with so much more grip. It looked like Turzich just going to be forced out wide a little bit there, and it looks like he's actually going to be potentially losing that position once again. So Turzich is going to have to come back, as we're seeing Duval on the back of Dennis Jordan. Dennis Jordan is trying to do this one stop, and he might make it work. Although we're already getting towards this final sector, he might have to lift off so much, but it looks like Duval has just got so much more ability to go fast, as I think Jordan's really going to be on fumes as we come towards the line. But let's see, out of the final corner, it's going to be Noah Roberts with some great strategy to get himself a victory here in the feature race of the second season of IndyPro at the Indianapolis Grand Prix circuit, followed by his teammate Jan Wozzeka, and it will be Ricardo Costa getting that third place. But who is going to be getting this fifth place? It is going to be Liam Duval, with Dennis Jordan coasting to the line, making that one stop work somehow. And actually, I think it did work out, because P6 is a really nice finish, kept him out of harm's way in the battles as well. Can Turzich hold? Has Alan run out of fuel? Or was he just giving back that position? He has lost a couple of positions at the end there.
What was going on there? He wasn't in front of those two before, was he? And he's
did he run out of fuel? What? He just suddenly slowed down out of the final corner.
Well, yes. He looks like he might have well have run out of fuel. Let's have a look here. And, yes, there's he broke towards the line, but nobody's quite sure why.
Maybe we'll have to see what happened in the stadium section, because he was, as we said, he was behind those guys, wasn't he? Maybe he did a bit of an audacious move and felt he wanted to give the position back, which is good, because that might avoid him getting a penalty for that, as long as obviously it wasn't bad enough. But yeah, difficult day for Alan Turzich there, finishing the race a little bit lower down than what he would have wanted, because he was doing good. But I think, Ewan, the main talking point was those NetRex P1 sim cars, because they absolutely obliterated the field at the front. Although actually, let's get the replay first. Yeah,
let's have a look at this first of all. How has Alan Turzich managed to get himself into that position? Because at the moment it doesn't look particularly promising. Oh dear, Stukowski is off the road, and then almost off the road in sympathy up in front. I think that's Skrovron just in front of us at the moment. But he's barged him off the road. Martin capitalises, and I think Turzich felt a bit bad about that one, and he let through. But to be fair, the damage was already done really for Skrovron, because he's lost a place to Martin, I guess. So Turzich might well get a penalty for that anyway. We'll have to wait and see on that one, but finishes 11th either way. I have to say, the driver I'm most impressed with, though, is Dennis Jordan, for making that one-stop work. I really didn't think it would happen at all, but I guess if anybody can, then it's Dennis Jordan, isn't it? So 6th place for him, and as you say, it eventually turned out to be the right strategy for him, really. I guess it's a very long pit lane here, so avoiding taking a whole trip down there is probably a good idea.
Yeah, I think P6 is a fairly decent result as well for him. Obviously, I was sure he would have wanted to be a bit higher, as we see the two NetRex P1 sim guys having some donuts, which is always good to see. Those guys, they dominated the pre-season race last week at Palm Springs, and now here at Indianapolis they get a 1-2 finish in the feature race. So really look out these two drivers for the Constructors' Championship indeed. But there's also some good performances, because even Petter Burlak still getting that 8th position after being spun around on the first lap is really good as well. And it's good to see that the strategy was quite sort of all over the place and chaotic, which is what we want to see.
Well, yeah, absolutely. As we look at the race results right now, NetRex 1-2, fair play to them for getting that one done. Costa and Braxtock in the end, 3rd and 4th. Liam Duval with a solid top 5, a solid day for him overall, actually. Dennis Jordan, as we just mentioned, Yannick Bock 7th, ahead of Petter Burlak 8th, and Carlos Martin, Demian Skronbron running out the top 10. So yeah, a number of good drives in that top order there. And we look on a bit further on down at Turzich and Rainey 11th and 12th. Jacob Reed kept himself mostly out of trouble to finish 13th. So did Thomas Vac. Remco Major was 15th in the end. Stepkowski next ahead of Koloksai. Hoyer, who was a lap down, quite a long way down for a long time. He's had a miserable day, to be honest. Benchik and Pignatera rounding up in top 20. A number of these guys on the screen right now having not ideal days overall, never mind just the feature race.
Yes, indeed. And let's actually get the driver standings, which is going to be a nice spit. Oh, tied on points. Look at that. Tied on points at the front between Woznica and Rovers. So that is obviously a great result for that. So they obviously, by default, then will also be leading the Constructors' Championship. Leon Deval, as you said, had a good day in third place. Petter Burlak, despite having a bit of a awkward start to the feature race, still actually getting himself fourth place in the championship and only 6 points off. So I would say, despite obviously that bit of, slight bit of a disappointment, it's actually a pretty good day for him. Then Ricardo Costa, Dennis Jordan, Janos Brakshock, Yannick Bock, Alan Turzich, and Remco Major rounding out the top 10. And we're actually going to see if we can try and get a couple of interviews, especially from those NetRex guys from the front. And it would be good to hopefully try and speak to them to see just how their race went. But Ewan, I think overall that was a really good start to the season. Hopefully we can see a nice race again in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what those championship standings do suggest to me is that actually being strong in the feature race, it seems to be slightly advantageous because those who were up towards the front there seem to be higher up than those who won the sprint race, for example, Petter Burlak. So I guess you can read into what you will with those standings at the moment. They're pretty academic at this stage, but yeah, it's certainly setting us up nicely, and yeah, it's been enjoyable. It has.
Yeah, it certainly has. And let's get a word with, first of all, the feature race winner, Noah Rovers. Noah, you had a really good strategy at the end there, having a bit of a shorter pit stop, getting yourself right behind Janos Brakshock. But overall, how was your day?
Oh, it was an incredible day. We had loads of fun. The car was really difficult to drive, so I was really nervous. I was really sweating, but in the end, we were able to pull it off due to an incredible strategy and some great teamwork between me and Jan. And yeah, we're both really happy to be P1 and P2 now. The tires were pretty done at the end, you know, with number 44. But yeah, really fun race. And I gotta say, loads of thanks to both P1 Sim and our new sponsor Venom for providing us with good gear.
Yeah, seems like you and your teammate Jan Wozka having a really good day, and you seem to be having a good partnership. But now that you're so tight, you're actually tied on points in the championship. Are you gonna maybe be a bit more harsh to each other and racing a bit harder?
I think we can be a bit more harsh towards each other because we've got a lot of respect for each other. We both like racing wheel to wheel. It's something what we always do during the practice sessions. So I think once it comes to like a wheel-to-wheel battle, I think Jan and I will both go for it, but definitely in a clean way.
Yeah, and well, first of all, congratulations as well for the good starts to the season. And we'll get a word now with Jan Wozka, joint championship leader as we leave Indianapolis. And it looks like after a strong pre-season race as well, you're up to speed with this car. What do you think you can achieve this season?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really expect this coming into this round because obviously, yeah, I was the fastest in preseason, but yeah, a lot of the fastest guy also, I guess, didn't try a lot and not all of them were there. So yeah, I think P2 is a fantastic result, and also congrats to Noah. It was, yeah, fantastic. And yeah, I was really scared because I got a screen freeze in the race, and I think I made contact with Yanis, and yeah, I want to say sorry to him. And yeah, but P2 is still an amazing result.
Yeah, so yeah, congratulations, and hopefully we can speak to you again in a couple of weeks' time. So good luck.
Thanks.
And Petter Burlak winning the sprint race, obviously having the choice to go on those soft compound tires, and hopefully he is here to have a bit of a word, because that strategy obviously worked out for the sprint race, got himself in a good position, got the win in the sprint race, but then in the feature race, unfortunately, you had a bit of contact, but I think you recovered quite well from it.
Hi, yeah. I don't know, the sprint race, I expected maybe a few more people on the softs, but I just wanted to secure a safe podium, so I just went with softs, and I won that race, which, I mean, it was kind of straightforward. I slipstreamed Jan, and then I basically just built the gap. But then, yeah, unfortunately, turn 1, there was contact, and I was, I don't know, P25 or something, and P8 was more than I expected in the end. So, pretty nice result in the end, considering turn 1.
Yeah, certainly. And I'm sure obviously you're going to be, turning up for a bit of fun with this series, but do you think you can challenge with those NetRex guys up towards the top of the championship?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's still a bit of a gamble with all the strategies and what others are doing, so you need a little bit of luck in that regard, but I think there's no reason why I can't fight at the front.
Yeah, well, good job today, and hopefully you have a good race in a couple of weeks' time as well.
Thank you.
And lastly, we'll get a word with Ricardo Costa, obviously finishing on the podium there in that feature race. And Ricardo, how did that race go for you?
Hello. It went very nice at the beginning. I managed to stay out of trouble. I recovered, I think, 1 or 2 places. And the pace was good. I was at the same pace as the guys in front. Same for the second stint, and then for the second stop, I got a problem during the stop when I stopped on my pit box. My pit crew was doing nothing. He was looking at me doing nothing, so I got stuck for about 3 or 4 seconds or more, actually. So that kind of ruined my chances to win the race, because I was in first, pulling a little bit from P2. I don't remember who it was, but I was pulling away a little by a little. But yeah, that was kind of unfortunate. Still, third place is pretty good. I wasn't expecting that, so it was pretty good.
Yeah, and you seem to be up to speed a little bit better with this car than you did in the main 2021 season. So do you think you could be fighting towards the front for the rest of the IndyPro season?
Yeah, hopefully. If I put a little more practice into it, yeah, sure. The car is nice. It's kind of hard to drive. That's like a common thing for everyone, but it's kind of cool to drive. You need to be on the edge, so yeah, it's pretty nice to drive. So yeah, it kind of motivates me to stay on it.
Well, that's good to hear. But yeah, good job today, and yeah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Right, and so that pretty much wraps up the interviews, Ewan. But I think the day obviously was for the NetRex P1 Sim guys, but we will be heading to quite a famous track in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely. Elkhart Lake Raceway, will be next, and then we've got no idea where we'll be heading after that, which is the beauty of it. And then obviously Apple Valley in the new year, which we're obviously looking forward to. So yeah, it's been a good start to the season, and I have similar feelings to what I did after the first round of the last year's IndyPro. It was a promising season ahead, and I think we do have that once again this time around. The different way, the unique way which with this series has its tyres set up and all of that, the strategic way it's set up and so on and so forth. I'm very much a fan of. So yeah, it's going to be it's going to be good, and yeah, I hope people have enjoyed it at home as much as we've enjoyed commentating on it this evening.
Indeed. So that wraps up for the first round at Indianapolis Grand Prix, and as we say, Elkhart Lake will be the venue for the next race on the 12th of December, so in a couple of weeks' time, before we then get the community vote. So there'll be a couple of information coming out. So basically there'll be a vote where you can vote and see what track we are going to do. So that'll be exciting indeed. But yeah, that wraps it up here for the first round of the season of the FSR IndyPRO Championship Season 2. And obviously thank you to SimLab, Mesita Esports and 3D Wrap for sponsoring us as well. And we look forward to seeing you in our next broadcast. Goodbye.